This is Mr. Saari in part 2 of going over 4.6 notes. In my first video, we went over slope-intercept form, standard form, and point-slope form. So in this video, we're going to be going over when you're given 2 points in a word problem rather than one of those other setups. So when you're given 2 points in a word problem, the problem will give you 2 different sample points. Contrast that with the problems we worked on in the earlier video when you had point slope, where you had 1 sample point, x1, y1, and a rate of change, m. So when you have 2 sample points, you're not given a slope at all, a rate of change. You're not given that. What you're given is 2 different pairs of sample points. Let's look at number 13 here to finish this up. And in order to get what to write in for those right there, you're going to write in x1, y1 and x2, y2, just as it shows right here. x1, y1 and x2, y2. So let's solve this one together, number 13. So let's read it and then I'll switch over to the key and we'll discuss. So to surf the internet for 25 minutes at an internet cafe, it costs $7.25. So notice they gave us minutes and cost. Then it says for 40 minutes it costs $9.80. Notice how we have 2 pairs of information. The amount of minutes and the cost that goes with that, the amount of minutes and the cost that goes with that. That's what it means by 2 sample points. So we want to write and solve a linear equation to find the cost for surfing the web for 1 hour. Now guys, does anyone remember how to come up with an equation for a line when you're given 2 sample points? We went over this on the activity that you guys did for homework on Friday. So when you have 2 sample points like this, remember what you have to do first is come up with your slope, m. And the way that you come up with your slope, m, does anyone remember the slope formula? If you have it, think about it. I'm about to go over it in a second. Remember the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So you subtract those, that will give you your slope. And then once we have the slope, this is just like a problem where we have the slope and we have a sample point. And that's where we use point slope form. Y minus y sub 1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. So notice, once we find our slope here, whatever it ends up being, you're going to take whatever your slope is, substitute in for m, and then use either x1, y1 or x2, y2 and plug them into the y1 and x1. You can use either point, but don't mix them up. Use x1, y1 in for y1 and x1, or you can use x2 and y2 in for y1 and x1 in your formula. And then you would just distribute and solve. So let's solve this one right here. So notice how for this number 3, to surf the internet for 25 minutes, it costs $7.25. That's our first point. So our first point is 25, $7.25. That's our first point. That's your x1, y1. Then our next point, what's our next point? Notice how it says for 40 minutes we have $9.80. So our next point, our x2, y2 is 40, $9.80. So that's our x2, y2. x2, y2. Okay, so notice, do we have this setup? We have 2 sample points. So our next step is to find the slope by doing y. The slope equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. So notice how I already labeled them. y1, x1, y1, and x2, y2. So we just plug in our y2, y1, and x2, x1. and then evaluate what this value is. So we're going to do 980 minus 725 over 40 minus 25. So when we subtract 9.8 minus 7.25, you get 1.55. You can do that in your calculator if you want to. And then we do that over 15. So 1.55 over 15. And I don't have my calculator with me real quick, so let's go and grab it. Did anybody catch my mistake? It's actually 255, not 155, when you subtract 980 minus 725. Again, guys, use your calculators to avoid careless mistakes like that. So 2.55 divided by 15 is 0.17. 0.17. So we have 0.17. Is what that ends up being. So remember, that's our slope. That's m. So now remember, our next step is to put this into this formula right here. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Notice we have the m. So in for the m, we're going to put our 0.17, our slope we just calculated. So now we have 0.17. We're going to put in right there. And then, does anyone remember what we do with the y1 and the x1? We substitute in 25 for x1 and 7.25 for y1. So we have y minus 7.25 equals 0.17 times x minus 25. And now your final step is to distribute in the 0.17. Remember, it distributes into both the x and the negative 0.25. So you'll need your calculator again. We distribute in the x, and we get 0.17x minus whatever 0.17 times 25 is. And that is going to be 4.25. So 4.25. And then we have y minus 7.25 on the left here still. And then to remember to solve for y, our whole goal is to get y by itself. So we're going to have to add 7.25 to both sides of our equation. So that cancels out over here. Negative 7.25 plus 7.25 is 0. So you're left with y over here. And on the right side, we just combine like terms here. Negative 4.25 plus 7.25 is 3. So we have 0.17x plus 3. And there's our final answer. Y equals 0.17x plus 3. And that is the equation to find the cost for surfing the web. Remember, what does x represent though? X represents how many minutes, and y represents the cost. So here's our model. So y is the cost, x is the number of minutes, and it says we want to find the cost of surfing the web for 1 hour. 1 hour. So cost for 1 hour. 1 hour is how many minutes, guys? That's 60 minutes. So that means, remember, our minutes is 60, that's x. So how do we solve? So we want to know the cost, that's the y, for 1 hour, 60 minutes. So we're going to plug in 60 for x and then simplify. So it's going to be y equals 0.17 times 60 plus 3. And we do that on the calculator. 0.17 times 60 is 10.2. So 1020 plus 3. So y equals 1320, which means $13.20 for 1 hour. And that is how we do those types of problems. Hope this was helpful. Good luck with your Cyber Day work, guys. Please take this seriously.